Who is Jesus? Your answer to this question separates you from everyone else. Your answer to this question separates you from the atheist, but it also separates you from the Muslim and the Mormon and the Jew. Not only does it separate us from other people in their own beliefs, but who we believe Jesus is actually separates us from who we used to be, or maybe who you are now. So over the next few weeks, we are actually going to talk about exactly who Jesus is, who he says that he is. Jesus says, I am 7 times in the book of John, and we're going to go through each of those over the next couple of weeks, and we're going to figure out exactly who Jesus is. So the first statement that we're going to talk about that Jesus says who he is, where he reveals himself to people in the book of John, he says, I am the bread of life. Now, we have a weird view of bread just because we live in 2022 and everybody's on keto or gluten-free or whatever the new thing is, right? But we don't see bread the way that they saw it back in the time of Jesus. And they saw bread as literally the thing that sustained their physical life. And so when Jesus works a miracle in the book of John, he feeds thousands and thousands of people with literally 2 fish and a few loaves of bread. And this is an incredible thing. People see this and are amazed at what Jesus has done. And so they start following him because they think, hey, here's my meal ticket. He's gonna give me free food if I follow this guy. And Jesus stops and he tells these people, hey, you're pursuing food here on earth. You're pursuing this stuff that literally you're gonna turn into poop. Right now, he doesn't say that, but we know how food works, right? It's gonna perish, right? Food gets moldy, bread gets moldy, it gets rotten, and it gets to where you can't eat it anymore. And so when Jesus says, hey, like, it's not just about this earthly food, he says, I am the bread of life, that ultimately the food that you eat is going to spoil, it's gonna go bad, or you're gonna eat it and it turns into poop. But what he's saying is that he is the bread of life, that spiritually, if you eat of him, if you take of him, if you take him into you and into your life, that you will have life eternal. And he goes on to say this. So he says, I'm the bread of life, that whoever comes to me shall not hunger, and whoever believes in me shall never thirst. He's not talking about physical food and physical water here. There's a longing inside of you for something more. And all of us have this, right? We all feel like there's something more to this life than what we see. Jesus is answering this and he's saying, hey, I'm that piece that you're missing. I am the bread that sustains you when life doesn't work. I am the source of life, is what Jesus is getting at here. And then we skip down to verse 47 in John chapter 6. He says, truly I tell you this, whoever believes has eternal life. He says again, I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate manna in the wilderness and they died. This is the bread that comes down from heaven so that one may eat of it and not die. And Jesus was referencing something that the Jews knew about way back in the day, that they told stories about it. Maybe you've heard it, where God provides this food in the wilderness for the Israelites, where otherwise they would have starved. God provides this supernatural food from heaven called manna, and they ate of it and they survived the desert. But Jesus was saying, hey, even though they ate that food, they died because that bread didn't sustain them forever. He's saying, if you eat of me, if you take me into your life, if you believe in me, you will have life eternal. He's not just talking about good teachings and how to be moral and how to do the right thing and have a great life. That's not what Jesus was after. He was after relationship with us. He says, I am the living bread that came down from heaven. And if anyone eats this bread, he will live forever. And the bread that I give for the life of the world is my flesh. Jesus wants us not to just be fulfilled by food and not just to be living for the physical, the here and the now that gets us to survive for the moment, but he wants us to feed on him. He wants us to focus in on him, to press into relationship with him. This is who our God is. This is what he wants us to do. And when he says, hey, I'm the bread of life, he's saying, hey, find your fulfillment, find your sustainment, find everything that you need for life in me. And so here in just a minute, we're going to break up into some small groups and we're going to have conversations. And I want you guys to think about this. Jesus as the bread of life. And we'll get into it. Thank you guys so much for your attention. Let's get it. That is really close.